So raise your hand out there if you like to shoot photos on your phone, but you often get that kind of quality which just, isn't that great. Well, today I'm going to talk to you about how I shoot my iPhone photos and put them into Adobe Lightroom to get the results that I want. Now, I make photos that look like this, turn into photos that look like this. And today I'm going to talk to you about how to quickly do that and how you can maximize your iPhone photo game. Let's roll. Okay, so let's just do a video capture screen record of what I'm doing on the iPhone as I edit these photos from the magical land of Scotland. Now, all of my photo editing is done in Adobe Lightroom, and this is not a sponsored post for Adobe or a promoted post or any kind of advertisement for Adobe products. I just use them. Premiere gives me a heart attack most days, but for Lightroom, I love using Lightroom to edit both my Lumix photos, Canon photos, and ultimately my iPhone photos. And it's just a great tool, offers so many options for color grading. You can do photo correction and manipulation. It's fast and easy, saves it right to your phone, right onto social media, and gets the job done. So follow along as I edit some photos from the magical land of Scotland. Okay, so I'm gonna open up Lightroom on my phone here. It's under my camera app section. And here I go. So it loads the photos right from my phone, and as you can see, I have lots of Scotland goodness. I've got Scotland photos all over the place, from the Isle of Skye to Glencoe to the boot commercial that Angie and I shot for Forsake Boots. I mean, there's lots of good stuff here, but the purpose of this video here is to talk about how I'm going to edit this photo, which you'll see right here, and how it became this photo from that photo. So, sunny day to cloudy, dour, and very Scotland-like day. So there are tricks in order to be able to do this. It's very simple, and to be honest, I grabbed my iPhone a lot on this trip, often more so than the Lumix, depending upon where I was. If I was hiking some Monroes or if I was out in some extreme conditions, it's a lot easier grabbing your phone than it is to grab your mirrorless camera from your bag, prop on a lens, put on an ND filter or maybe a mist filter onto that camera lens. Using the phone is just so handy. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't shoot on a good mirrorless camera. I'm definitely a purist that way, but if you can get a great result on a phone that has a 48 megapixel, then why not? So this iPhone is an iPhone 14 Pro. You can shoot in RAW, you can shoot in non-RAW, you can shoot even ProRes video, which is kind of crazy for a phone. But I digress. I shot a lot of good photos on this trip using the iPhone 14's main camera. So this is what I have of Eilean Donan Castle. So I got a great shot here of the walkway leading up to Eilean Donan. And as you can tell, it was shot on a very sunny, bright day, which we got some great weather in Scotland, so we got pretty lucky. But in order to give it that fun effect, that kind of dour feeling to being out in that Scottish Highland weather, it's great to kind of, bring down some colors, bring down some saturation, and ultimately change a couple effects on this photo to really bump it up. So this is what I did. So here's the original photo, blue sky, pretty day, the rocks are, quite focused in on. And how do I turn that photo into this photo? So first steps first, I always like to take a look, and this is definitely a cheat, but I love looking at the presets that come along with Lightroom because there's a lot of good presets that you can get with this. I like to go with landscape. So as you can tell, there's premium style and there's recommended style and there's all kinds of stuff. But my good starting basis, and this is cheating, I know, but going into landscape does give you a great place to start from. So looking along here gives you options for cooler colors to warmer colors to the kind of that vintage, orange and teal look. But for the purposes of this particular photo, let's go with something maybe a little, how about that? That's a nice starting basis. So it brings up the oranges a bit, it brings down the greens a bit, and gives you a great basis in which to start this particular grade. So I'm gonna hit this check mark down here at the bottom, and let's get to work. So first things first, I always like to see what's the focus point of this particular photo. And in this case, it is the castle. The castle is what you see first. The castle is something, even though it's not in focus as the main subject with this leading line going towards it, but you're going towards the castle. So let's focus on the castle for the photo. Now, number one, you can go here to masking. Now, masking options here allow you to target specific points of the photo. So by clicking on this little blue button, it gives you abilities of creating a new mask. Now, in this case, we're going to go for a brush, and we're going to set the size to 18. That's pretty good. And we're going to draw on this castle here. And when you draw on the castle, it gives you this beautiful little kind of red hueish area of where you're correcting things. You can change the size of the brush, you can erase the brush, you can ultimately delete what you just did. But in this case, I'm pretty happy with this. And now I'm going to go down to the options that are specifically targeting this particular area of the photo. So down here in light, we're going to take a look at some of the options and how we can kind of maximize that castle's quality. As I said before, that castle was not fully in focus because I was focusing here on the rocks, but we can bring up some ideas in order to make it pop. So let's take a look at the contrast. If we change that a little bit, it does change the color slightly and make it a bit brighter. But ultimately, the trick that's going to make this castle really pop forward is bringing up exposure. Now, as I bring up exposure more, you can tell that the shadow that was blocking that is now gone. From here, I can also raise shadows a little bit more to make it look more in focus in terms of that focal point, and maybe bring down the whites a little bit so it makes it look a little bit more natural and a little bit more softer to the look. From the color here, we can change the color temperation. We could go yellow, we could go blue, but we're just going to keep it right there in the middle, probably around about maybe +1 to match the grass as well as that kind of, orangey look that you get in Scotland in October. So over here, we're going to go now to effects, and we're going to bump up clarity ever so slightly. Not too much to get a lot of kind of affecting and artifacting you don't want in the photo, but that does the trick. From detail here, we don't need to worry about this. The sharpness I'm not going to raise because I already have beautiful areas here on the rock. So our castle is mostly done. So we're going to hit this little check mark. Next up, we're going to go back to masking, and we're going to create a new mask, and we're going to select the sky because why not? And the sky here has now been selected because the tool has a built-in effect. When you get the full version of Adobe Lightroom, you're going to be able to select the sky in-app. Highly valuable, and it's really a great option of being able to kind of select things in a hurry without dragging your finger over everything. So from here, we're now going to take a look at how we can adjust this. So number one, let's go into light. And if we bring the exposure up, obviously that blows it out to a cloudy day, but we kind of want to keep the definitions of those clouds. So let's bring it to maybe about plus 0.15. We're going to bring down the highlights, but as you can tell, it's starting to bring out the blues, and we don't really want that. We want more of that dour look. Shadows, we're going to bring over here, and let's see what we get here. Let's bring the shadows up a little slightly to kind of tone down the brightness in the shadows. Whites, we're going to bring those down slightly as well, and blacks. But the real secret sauce to this one is going into color and bringing down the saturation. Because when you bring down saturation, as you can tell here, all of a sudden the day becomes a darker, more overcast looking day. Since there's not a lot of shadows in this photo, we can kind of, cheat and create a cloudy day feature from that blue sky. So by bringing this down here and bringing up maybe the temperature to a bit warmer, and then we can go back into our light area, and we're just going to bring this down a bit, maybe a little bit up actually. And we're going to bring down contrast so we lose that color in the clouds. I kind of like that. That really does a good job of being able to get rid of that blue color without blasting out the sky in white. So now we're going to go down here to blacks, and we're going to change this a little slight bit and raise them up so it makes it even more cloudy. And we're going to select that. That's pretty good. Now to also cheat and to make this look a bit more dour, we're going to go over here to the effects tab, and we're going to start to vignette this. So by vignetting, we are able to kind of like give that vignetting to the lens, which is a very selective feature that maybe you want, maybe you don't want, but in this case I do. So I'm going to use that, and I'm going to also take the clarity down a little tiny bit because it's a very bright kind of focused on image here. I think I may actually, while I'm here, go back to masking. We're going to do one more mask. We're going to mask these rocks because these rocks are a little bit harsh. So I'm just going to drawing all over the rocks here. I'm just going to keep drawing, get that brush there. Looks pretty good. Awesome. So we're going to go back now to the detail section on this particular brush, and we're going to bring down sharpness because I don't really want those rocks being super sharp. Computational photography likes to really make things very focused on, and it kind of makes it artificial. So if you can drop that, softening down, you can really start to get more of a realistic lens approach to that particular photo. So now we got the rocks, now the sharpness is down, looks a bit more natural. We get that lovely leading line up to the castle, and we're going to now go back into the photo again. So let's go overall, since this is the overall version of things, let's go to the curves. Now the curve sections of these photos and of these photo editing allows you to adjust different definitions on a curve, or the scale of where you're going to be able to change the color grade from blues to yellows and to oranges in the color spectrum of blue, green, and a red here, as well as the light. With this, I think I'm going to briefly bring it down ever so slightly here. This is all subjective, so play with your photos and find out what works best for you. But I like to get a bit of a warmer kind of look. So the S-curve option, by basically taking this point and moving up the top point, kind of creates an even consistency to this, but I don't want to make it too much of a blue option. I like the yellows and the oranges here in this photo, so I'm gonna go with this. Now with this, we're also gonna, as you can tell, that preset already set various points along this curve for where this color grade LUT is. If I bring this down, we get more shadows. If I bring this up, we get a bit more highlights. So we don't really fully want that. We're gonna keep it mostly where it is. Then we're gonna go over here to the green options, and we're just gonna see what happens if we play with greens a little bit. We want more oranges. So we're gonna drag that green down slightly. Now, iPhone photos like to really pop greens in photos. No idea why, but they do. So if you want to kind of adjust that, take it to the green area and bring down your green contrast and saturation levels. So over here, we're going to take a look. If we raise it up, no, it doesn't look so good. Remember, the orange and the teal options are kind of what we're going for in this photo. So let's go with this-ish. That looks pretty good. I like that. Okay, cool. We're gonna go back to the sky again, because the sky, I think we can do better on actually. Let's go over here to light, and we're gonna bring down the exposure, or bring up the exposure, pardon me, but we're gonna bring down the clouds. It's starting to look more dour now, I like that. And then in order to also kind of correct this, we're gonna go now into the overall version of the photo, over here to color. We're gonna select the color mix, which gives us the ability of specifically targeting certain colors in the photo. And we're gonna go here and we're gonna bring down saturation. Now this is really helping to get rid of that blue part of the sky that we just don't want. We don't wanna have that. We want it to be looking like it's a lovely cloudy day in the Highlands of Scotland. So now we've got that down. This is looking pretty good. We're gonna go over here and we're gonna go back to our light, and we're gonna go down to our blacks, and we're gonna bring them down even more, because why not? Let's bring in the detail of the blacks here and play with that a little bit. We're gonna take a look at our shadows. The shadows bring the overall shadows of the photo, so maybe don't play with that too much, but potentially we could change the exposure just ever so slightly. Maybe a little bit lower. Yeah, it's all subjective. Whatever you like, just do that. So, and then from there, we're gonna go back to our detail, our effects, and we're gonna bring down the vignetting. So the vignetting is focusing your focus point on that main part of the photo right here. So that really brings the eye into what we're looking at, which in this case, the castle. So we have a lovely looking photo here now that, you know, gives more of a realistic fall approach to the photo. It doesn't pump out the blues, doesn't pump out the greens, and makes it look like it's a lovely cloudy day, which is the goal. So one more thing in this photo, which I'd love to just correct, is this tiny little black smudge. Because if we adjusted the sky, you can tell that one of the shadows popped out in the clouds, and maybe it was a darker cloud in the sky, and now it's prominently featured. So what I'll do with that, I'm just gonna go to healing, very simple, and I'm just gonna essentially tap on this, which is gonna basically mask this layer onto this. I'm gonna say yes, and just like that, that little smudge is gone. That's a huge benefit to being able to make sure you clean out the photo to have anything you don't want in there that might become that sort of focus point by adjusting layers and adjusting the brushes here. Sometimes these areas do pop up. So always look at healing to kind of adjust that little tiny fine-tuned detail of your photo. But that's pretty good. Like, I'm really happy with this photo. So as you can tell, we've adjusted things, we've given it a vignetting, we've changed the coloring, we've dropped down the saturation, and we've done a really great job in making this photo look essentially like a dour day in Scotland. So don't just settle for taking the picture and popping out on Instagram. Challenge yourself to edit your photos. Go into Lightroom or any other apps that you use, but specifically in this case, Lightroom, and edit your photos and manipulate them to create the mood and the coloring and the feel and the atmosphere of how your photo should be. Computational photography and videography is great, and leaving it on auto mode to get that photo is good, but why not go that extra level to really make that detail come forward and ultimately tell the story of why you held that phone in the first place to take a picture? So if you found this video helpful, please hit that like and subscribe button below, and stay tuned for all sorts of videos I have coming up on tech reviews and editing tips and tricks in order to maximize your photo and video game. Peace.